Please
Thank you,
welcome
David.
Mayor Gluba.
Sorry I didn't get here a few minutes early. I was supposed to be introducing David, but I've read all his books and watched him be one of the few in the country that's really told it like it is over the years. And I just love his books. If you haven't read them, you need to get them, a few of them. And I love the titles because and the subtitles, because they really say a lot. They say it all in a short caption. For example, the book Perfectly Legal. And then subtitle is the covert campaign to rig our tax system to benefit the super rich and cheat everyone else. That was written in 2004. I remember running for Congress, used to quote that. Nobody listened, but so what? Then another one. David, can you hear me? Can you hear me back there still?
Yeah.
All right. Another next book. Free Lunch. If you haven't got it, you need to go online and get it. How the wealthiest Americans enrich themselves at government expense and stick you with the bill. That's what's been happening under Democrats and under Republicans. Mostly the Republicans to blame, but a lot of Democrats, including our dear friend Bill Clinton, right in there with them. You know, let's be real. And also Brock, when he hired all those people from Wall Street, Summers and Geithner, you know, little things like the first thing they did. You remember? I can remember when Paul McNeil was Secretary of the Treasury, head of Alcoa, went into the Treasury under Bush. It was the last month of the Bush administration. Brock just got elected. The government was essentially collapsing. Bush was, oh my God, what do I do now? You know, and Paul O'Neill went almost half-hand begging. I saw it on TV to the United States Congress. You gotta do something, or the whole system's gonna collapse. Capitalism's gonna end. Begging. You know what? You know, it was a Democratic Congress back then. You know, and asked for $725 billion, almost $1 trillion to save, quote, capitalism as we know it today. And then we were losing, remember, 755,000 jobs a month. We were bleeding. It was just out of control, reaching 10-11%. But instead of our Democratic congressmen and senators, including some that were around here, instead of saying to the establishment, Wall Street, and Mr. O'Neill, we'll do the deal, we'll save this system that mostly protects the top 1 or 5%, but we're going to sort of do what Franklin Roosevelt and his New Dealers did. We want some money in return. We're going to create a work program, a jobs program, with another $725 billion. It was all borrowed money, you know, printed. And we're going to put the American people to work. That's the trade-off. Didn't happen. Our guys came. We gave them the money. We've been getting screwed pretty much ever since. It saved the system. No doubt about that. You know, we went from losing 755,000 jobs a month to where last month we gained somewhere around 230,000. The chart changed, you know, from big losing jobs to gaining jobs. Unemployment under the president went from about 10.2 to 5.8%. The federal debt, and these are the good things that happened. But the Democrats, the fools, didn't take credit for any of them. They all ran from the president. Unemployment cut in half, right? The federal debt was cut 2/3. It was like $1.7 trillion the first year Brock came in. Now it's down to $500-600 billion. You know, cut by 2/3. The stock market, my God, the indicator of the whole system, right? You know, that make you all wealthy out there, right? You can live off your dividends, right? No, you can't. You'd have Social Security, the older ones would be in the poorhouse, and without Medicare you'd be broke. But anyway, stock market under our guy, under this whole deal. I need to tell you, it went from about 6,700 to the Dow Jones Industrial up to the highest 17,800 this week. The highest ever been. Yeah. What the hell did we do for the lower end of the totem pole? Nothing. Essentially. Oh, we passed this health care plan, God bless it. All they needed to do is lower Medicaid age, drop it, provide a few extras, we wouldn't have this mess we got. It's better than nothing, but it's still way off from what it should be. So anyway, that's sort of what's been happening. A lot more got us out of the war. But God bless him. He's a dear friend. I mean, not a friend. He's met him, supported him, read his book. Got it right there. Audacity of Hope. Believed in what my people write a book. I tend to believe what they say they're going to do. Didn't really do enough. Certainly wasn't Roosevelt. I'll put him somewhere between Woodrow Wilson and Carter. But the first 100 days of Franklin Roosevelt's administration, when we had a similar crisis, right? They called the Great Recession nearly a depression. The first 100 days, a president led this nation past major legislation, put the American people to work through CCC and WPA, and et cetera, so created Social Security, more massive amount of government improvement than the history's seen in this country. That's what they should have done. Our congressmen, you, should have demanded and kept them accountable during that period. We didn't. So we wasted a Democratic Congress. Certainly wouldn't have got it all done, but it would have made a big difference. So it's our fault. It's labor's fault. It's the teacher's fault. It's the senior's fault. It's the mayor's fault. It's our failure to hold these people accountable after they came to Iowa and we elected them. It really is. So, what am I getting at? When Hillary, God bless her, comes to town, you remember she was the front runner last time. Oh, you can't stop Hillary. She's going to win. All the pundits. Barack Obama's got a funny name. He's an African-American. He can't win. Well, we showed him in Iowa that we can change the system and we can make a difference and we can decide who's president, right? Only thing is, we took them for granted. We assumed when it booked that they were going to try to do all these. And I know they can't accomplish something. They've been around politics all my life. You know, you can't necessarily do it, but you should try. You should put it out there so the other side has to either vote it up or down. You know, if it voted down, you can say, well, we got to get some, but you got to at least try. So when Hillary comes to town, and I've watched these presidents since Kennedy, not so much then, it's pretty young, but after that, they all come in, and all their advanced people get ahead of them. They come to town, and they get with a few people, and then they decide what this is going to be for us, what's going to be allowed for this candidate, whether it's going to be an open forum, public forum. Usually they're isolated, right? You can't get in unless you got a ticket. When you get in, they stand up and talk to you, tell you what to get. We got to end that approach. We got to get Hillary in a room like this, put her up here and find out what the hell are you really going to do. Let's see your program. Not talk. Find out who's giving her money. I guarantee it'll be Wall Street, because that's the one's got the dough. And what's the other big one? Goldman Sachs. That's where they get all their hotshot people from Summers and Geithner. You know, they're just in and out of government. But anyway, when Hillary comes in, we got to put the coals to her, folks. We got to find out. And she's got to be willing to say, we're going to, if the private sector won't or can't, and they won't put the American people to work, you know, they haven't, then the public sector must. Think about that. We got all kinds of jobs out there. You put thousands of people to work in Davenport. If I had the money, I can't get the money. I got to tax you out of your home and put senior citizens out in the street to do it, because we don't have the ability to raise the kind of funds under a lot of rules and regulations. So that's one of the things we need to do. A whole lot of things on the environment. What are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do? Lead a crusade, or are you going to just stand back and let the oil come? Oh, whatever the issues are. So anyway, back to, that's some of the things we got to do specifically. David was asking, giving us some other ideas. Letters to the editor. Right-wing talk shows. You got to be on there all the time. Well, I know some of you do. I see my big dear friend, Mr. Fosbeck, writes letters all the time, David does. Others, You got to take them on. And I see more and more that's encouraged about the minimum wage and all the rest. So that's a few. I'd like to see you run for office. Hey, get off your ass and run for office someday. You expect us to do it all the time, take the heat and the ridicule. Where are you at?
Maria knows.
Where are you at? The school board elections. A few put their name on there's state representative elections, congressional elections, you name it. Run for office, county board of supervisors, Congress. I did. Cost me a great lot of money over the years. Sacrificed greatly. Get out and do more than that. Get off your behinds and do more. Get behind candidates. And this is a group I'm preaching to. But we got this huge amount. You know what's going on downtown Davenport today? God bless it. A parade to run a bunch of balloons. Gee, that's all fine. I'll get criticized by criticizing. I'm not. Because all the money goes to the arts. That's sweet and dandy. But we need leadership up and down the line that would, for example, casinos want to come to town. We got $1 million. $1 million. How many in this room ever got $1 million for anybody? I think you use your influence and your position. You get positions, if you can, to make a difference. Those are just some of the suggestions. And finally, a couple of things, a couple other aspects of this book. You got to give them, you got to read them, because not enough of what authors and writers are doing what David has done. He pretty much committed his life to doing this. He could have been a multi-millionaire many times over, believe me. And he did. He got in there and tried to make a difference intellectually. And that brings me around to another thing, intellectually. What are our universities and colleges doing on these issues? Think about it. Think about it. They want to build $25 million football stadiums. What the hell's that got to do with making a difference in this world? Right? Think about it. Sports, sex, and self. That's what too many people are concerned about today. Think about it. That's all you see on TV. It's the opium of the people. Keep them docile and quiet and dumb, and we'll just pick their pockets, go on about making it for a few people. It's failings. Why am I so concerned and passionate? Because I don't want to see my family continue to deteriorate, the next generation, have less than we sort of did, which is less than our generation, no retirement, inadequate pay. Student loans, my God, student loans. Still program on television the other day. Huge amount of debt. Another reason that this points me with Congress, they should have just written off student loan debt. Or said something to the effect, we're going to write off a third of it. We're going to make you work in nonprofits for the third, and you can pay the rest over the next 30 years. You wonder why the economy's not going anywhere in a big degree. Kids aren't getting married till they're 35. They can't afford it. They have smart. They have no money. They can't buy a house. They can't hardly afford the car. Many of them are living in their parents' basements. What crime did they commit? They tried to get an education at their own institutions. And boy, they're all professors and this and that. And I'm just not blaming them across the board, same way with the hospitals. The money comes from student loans, which the kids have to pay off. Who underwrites the student loans? The federal government. So the point is, are they really private institutions? Or state-run? Yeah. But the money, the bankroll, comes from our kids who are living in our basements, trying to get enough money to pay back the student loans, pay the faculty, and then get no job because the system's failed us. Because the jobs are overseas. And I'll do a few more. Where in the hell's labor at? God bless labor. When I was a young person coming up and involved in politics, 1967, 68, labor made up 37% of the workforce. I was a UAW member. Farmall, International Harvester, J.I.K.'s, Caterpillar, etc. 37%. And why? Because their parents and others before them were willing to stand up and be counted and fight. Today, labor's down to 11%, half of them are state and local employees, government employees. Without that, we'd have nothing. So labor has to do more. I went out to Washington, D.C., went to the FL-CIO building, ran for Congress in 82. Big, fancy building in Washington, D.C., lots of union offices. I went begging, hat in hand. I go out, didn't get much. I was with Lane Evans, matter of fact. Helped him get the money. God bless Lane. Anyway, I go out. There's this big Cadillac pulls up in front. I think it was George Meany, I can't remember, one of them was head of the AFL-CIO in '82. Gets up, walks out, like Mr. King gets in his big Cadillac, chauffeur. I go up to the window, I can very vividly remember this, like a beggar and a person hungry going to a window. I'm knocking on his window. You know, he rolls it down, he says, you know, I'm running for Congress, can you help me? Well, contact somebody else. Drives off in his big limousine. That's been another problem. Labor needs to get more out and active. Everyone here ought to be promoting it. All these cheap paid jobs, because the government didn't bring a lot of this stuff about. They got it about because of labor and unions, and yet ain't most people could care less. Anyway, I don't know if that was what I was supposed to talk about, David, but that's what I talked about.
You just had to give it a forethought.
I'll tell you, we need to get guys like David into the classrooms and across the country, talking to people to hear the other side. Because all you hear, oh, let me give you another idea. This comes from 50 years of experience and involvement, so I kind of know what the hell I'm talking about. And I think, I went to the White House after the election, and I gave Brock a plan, which I thought would work. And I said, well, we're going to have to do progressives, you as president, they're going to have to get a hold of the Warren Buffetts and Bill Gates' dads of the world, who have got the real dough. And you're going to have to ask them to help us save this country. And that they're going to have to really get involved in the political process, like the Koch brothers and all the right-wingers did. We need to create a lot of think tanks, and we need to get people out finding candidates across the board to run for local and state, federal office, which we don't do. When I ran for Congress, there were 70 seats that didn't even have people running. And we need to build this thing from the bottom up. You know, and we need to buy, told me, so you need to convince them to buy like Fox Channel, Clear Channel, Fox Network, or create something similar, because all day long, from 9 in the morning until 9 at night, the Glenn Becks and the Rush Limbaughs and the Jim Fishers and the Hannitys are constantly dripping on the people that make up our communities. All they're hearing constantly is how evil and bad government, that it's the problem, that's the solution. That the Democrats they're going to blame Barack even after he's out of presidency in the next 6 years. We need to have an effort nationwide to create that, or we can't get across. You can't get your message across. You know, write letters there, that helps, but that's another big deal. So when Hillary comes to town, we need to talk about that. And finally, I'll leave you with this, I like to give suggestions of what to do, not just talk about, hell, we all know what the problems are. They get worse every year. I've seen it. That's one of the reasons I'm a little frustrated. After 50 years, we're worse off. Worse off for the country. More money for the Pentagon, wars going on, poverty increasing. The middle class pretty much almost gone, unless you got one of the nice, comfortable little jobs at a Deere or a Cola somewhere, and you can hang in, but still the lowest quartile are just desperate. That's why we got all these little programs, church getting food out. One of the fastest growing areas to shop is not the old Montgomery Wards or Pennies. It's Goodwill Industries. Look what's growing around. I mean, it's not rocket science, and these sociologists, but they don't even talk about that. The trend is those kind of buildings, those kind of places. Food banks, food stamps, welfare, this and that. We have more patch-made programs to keep soldier workers working. They're not making much, but the bottom line is what we need to do. We need money. Can't do anything without money. Believe me, try it. Try to run for Congress. Try to make a difference. You can do a little bit, but it takes big bucks to make a difference in this country, to address welfare and unemployment, put people to work. Put my work program, or Roosevelt's program, they had the money. And either borrowed it